Hello and welcome to the second part of this tutorial on the topic of agreement. In the first part, we looked at subject-verb agreement, meaning that if the subject is singular, like he or cat or potato, then the verb must also be singular, is, eats, tastes. If the subject is plural, like cats, cars, men, then the verb must also be plural. That's what's meant by agreement. In this tutorial, the second part, we'll be looking at another aspect of agreement, and that is if there is a pronoun later on in the sentence, an antecedent that refers back to the subject, that also must agree in number and in gender. We'll also look at some exercises in this tutorial, a couple different sets of them that'll give you some practice on this subject. Okay, so let's get started on this. So once again, this is about pronoun agreement, meaning that the subject of the sentence agrees with its pronoun later in the sentence. That's called an antecedent. The pronoun must agree in number and gender. So that's unlike with verbs that really don't have a gender. Let's look at a couple samples here. The doctors finish their rounds. All right, first find the subject. It's doctors. Decide if that's singular or plural. It's plural. Go to the verb. Finish is the plural form of that verb. Then go to the pronoun later on. In this case, it's their, the plural pronoun. So that's how this works. Agreement among the three parts of the sentence, the subject, the verb, and the pronoun. The next one, with a singular, doctor, singular, finishes, singular. Now we don't know the gender of the doctor. In that case, we use his or her, even though it's a little clumsy. If the doctor were a woman, it would be the doctor finishes her rounds. What would be incorrect is the doctor finishes their rounds. That would be an error in agreement. So once again, if you don't know the gender of the noun, use his or her, like everyone performs at his or her best. Everyone singular performs singular. Now you need the singular form of the pronoun, but if you don't know the gender, you have to go with his or her. So that is what is meant by pronoun agreement. All of the other rules we learned in part 1 about subject-verb agreement apply to the pronoun later in the sentence. One thing we learned in the first tutorial is that you look at the subject, singular or plural, then you find the verb, singular or plural, and disregard any words that might come between those two, like the cat between the sheets is eating its mouse. Subject cats, disregard sheets. That's in a prepositional phrase. The singular cat takes the singular verb is, takes the singular pronoun its. In the next example, it's reversed. It's plural. Cats is plural. Disregard in the house because it's in a prepositional phrase that does not affect the choice of the verb. Cats plural, are plural, pronoun plural, there. We also learned in the first tutorial about neither nor or either or. In that case, you have two different subjects. You choose the subject closer to the verb. Here, it's teacher. Teacher is singular. Therefore, is singular. Therefore, the pronoun is singular. Her desk, presuming we know the teacher is a woman. We learned also about collective nouns like family that is singular if it's acting as one unit, all doing something together. Like here, the family is going on its vacation. Family singular is singular, therefore its is singular. So for you to choose the correct pronoun requires that you understand these other rules about subject-verb agreement. First, finding the subject. And then there are some complications with that at times, and that's what the first tutorial is about. So now that we're at the end of all the things I can tell you about subject, verb, pronoun agreement, let's see what you know. Beginning with this list of sentences that I provided in the first tutorial. So if you've already done this, skip ahead a little bit. If you haven't, hit pause, come up with choices for the verbs and occasionally the pronouns. Write down your answers, and when you are ready to see the correct choices, here they are. Now I will give a very quick explanation for these choices. In number 1, lilac, subject, singular, therefore smells, singular. They, plural, therefore protect, plural. Remember the tip I gave you that if you're not sure what form of verb is the singular, remember that most end in S, like the word singular. Onward to number 3. Cause is the subject, disregard of my problems. Cause singular is singular. Same with number 4. Grass is the subject, singular. Disregard the intervening phrase. Go to the verb, it's singular. 5 is a compound subject joined by and, plural, goats and dog, are, plural verb. 6 appears like it's a compound subject, but this is an exception. Chips and salsa is regarded as one food menu item, singular, so is. 7, either or, in that situation, take the subject closer to the verb. That's book, singular, therefore is. 8, neither is singular, so you want speaks, the singular verb. 9, everybody. This is an indefinite pronoun. It is singular, so you want the singular sits, and later on, the singular pronoun his or her. Number 10, each is singular, therefore you want has, and later on the pronoun his. And we know it's his, we know the gender because it refers back to sons. 11 and 12 both have the same subject, all, but in 11 it is plural. It refers to toenails, so you want are. In 12, all refers to the singular peach, making all singular. Therefore, is and its are the choices. 13, class is all acting as one. Singular agrees, and later on, its. The class in 14 disagree. They are not as one unit, so it's disagree and their, the plural forms. 15, their, that word, is never the subject. It points to chips, that's plural, so you want the plural are. Finally, measles, though it ends in S, it is just one illness, so it is. Okay, based on all that you learned there, let's do it one more time. Here is a fresh list of 15 sentences asking you to decide on the verb, the correct verb, and occasionally the correct pronoun. Write down your answers. When you are ready, here are the correct choices. Let me walk you through it with an explanation. Number 1, song, subject, singular, reminds, singular verb. 2, we is plural, divide is plural. 3, problems, plural subject, disregard of my life, are is the plural verb. Sofa in 4 is the subject, disregard the intervening phrase along with the lamps, singular verb. Popcorn and butter is acting as one food item, therefore is, singular subject, singular verb. 6, either or, choose the subject closer to the verb, that's laces, plural, then are, plural. 7, neither is a singular subject, so you want neither cares, singular verb, and later on singular pronoun her. Somebody is singular, snores is singular. Each, that word is singular, it is the subject, disregard the prepositional phrase. So it's each has, singular, it's singular. On to number 10, none of my answers on the test. None is one of those words that you have to see what it refers to. Some, none, any, all, most, and fractions. None here refers to answers, that's plural, you want are. 3/4, that's a fraction, refers to face, singular, then you want is and its. Committee in 12 is acting as one singular unit, so you want the singular verb decides, the singular pronoun its. 13, the word here is not the subject, it refers to ideas, plural, therefore are, plural. Physics is just a subject, though it ends in S, singular subject, singular verb is. And finally, in 15, is everybody. The subject is everybody, singular, so you want is, singular verb, and the singular pronoun his or her. All right, so that's a lot of exercises. Reward thyself, and hopefully you have learned a thing or two based on these exercises of what you might need to work on. And that brings us to the end of this two-part tutorial on agreement. Lots of rules, at times complicated, but it's really worth learning them, getting them down. Okay, thanks. Hope this helped you out. Bye-bye.